Hey, what's up guys? It's Ben from CryptoVoid here today. I'm bringing you a brand new video. We're going to be taking a look at Fallout 76 and we're going to be deciding if it's actually worth buying. Today we're going to be talking a little bit. We're going to have some gameplay in the background. That's going to be my gameplay of a little bit of the Into the Mystery questline series. It's a whole big side quest. It's a really good one. Make sure if you've got the game you go and play it yourself. If not, take a look. We'll see what's going on. I'm going to talk about the good bits and the bad bits of Fallout 76. We're going to talk about gameplay, how much of a Fallout game it really feels like, what changes have been made to the game since Fallout 4, and my overall opinion on whether or not the game is actually worth getting. Stay tuned, guys. Obviously, in the actual game, rather than just the atomic shop on the menus, in the actual game, we have a certain number of things to talk about when it comes to a Fallout game. One of them is the amount of chems that you need to be able to take with you. The healing and food system in Fallout 76 is alright. It could be better. It could be a lot worse. It feels a lot more like a survival game. I think that's the main point. It feels like a survival game. You have to eat, you have to drink, you have to keep your radiation levels at bay. You've got to deal with any diseases that you take. But realistically, it feels like it could take away from the story a lot as well. Because if you're so focused on where to find the next boiled water and then to purify it, or where to find some dandy boy apples, you miss an awful lot of story. There could be a reference to another game as a painting on the wall, but you're too busy looking at the floor for a can of soup. There's a lot of different things that can take away from the game, and I think searching for food and drink just to be able to play the game itself could be one of them that means that you miss a lot of story. Another downside to that, obviously, the heal and the food, it's very tough to find supplies. The main place used to be in a mirror above any sink in a toilet. Now you're lucky if you find diluted Rad-X, which means you only get half of the effect. You don't really find stim packs. If you do find any stim packs, they're usually diluted, or if you're buying them from a vendor, they cost a lot. Which we'll get into later on about bartering system. We'll get into that later on. What we want to move on to next, though, is how you craft in the game. Obviously, you still have your workbenches. You've got your armor and your weapons. Tinker Tom's workbench is back, which is cool. It gives you a few little extra bumps. But the supplies for crafting aren't really around. You always find the same sort of things, like you always find an awful lot of scrap, or you find an awful lot of plastic and things like adhesive and, well, cloth actually is really common. Adhesive and, as Americans call it, aluminum. Those things, they're sort of really hard to come by, and you need an awful lot of them to repair weapons and to build new ones. Speaking of repairs, obviously, that's a whole part of the workbench system. Your weapons will break a lot. Your armor will break as you get damaged, a whole lot of wear and tear, but repairs cost an awful lot. You're talking 4 different items and about 6 of each different item almost. It's a lot of searching just to repair one shotgun or one pistol. Unfortunately, you could buy a new one, but if you buy a new one you need some caps, and that's our next point. Caps are ridiculously hard to come by. They don't appear in chests as much, they don't appear on dead bodies as much. I'm currently around level 14, and I think I haven't ever held more than about 400 caps. Which is really bad, considering the whole game is supposed to be about bartering, collecting things, selling off your old stuff. You can still sell things to the vendor bots. You don't have real NPCs anymore, you just have vendors. And the vendor bots are very expensive. So if you break your shotgun and it's your favourite shotgun, and there's exactly the same one in the vendor bot, and you're like, oh, I will buy that, it's going to cost you a lot, and you're probably not going to have enough, to be honest. You could then always go and repair, but then it goes back to our crafting situation of you're going to be grinding for maybe another 45 minutes to an hour just to find those repair supplies, and it's just a lot of work for keeping and maintaining weapons. And even then, if you get some extra weapons that you don't want, you're selling to vendor bots. It's not really worth it. You don't get a lot of items back. You don't get many caps. If you want to scrap like a really souped up 10mm pistol, you'll probably get about 6 caps for it. which is really bad because obviously you need to be able to buy new things, and you also need it now for fast travel. Fast travel on the map is obviously a massive part of it. If you've got one quest and you're the other side of the map, you can't spend the next hour and a half running around just to get to that place. A lot of people don't have that much time in the day to play anymore. Or you could spend about 60 caps to get across the map, which, because caps are so scarce, it's just a problem. One of the biggest reasons why fast travel cost can be so impactful is because if you die, especially if you die wearing power armor, the game registers that you're not wearing the power armor whilst you're dead, so it over encumbers you because you're holding all of your items that otherwise the power armor could hold. And then you can't fast travel to anywhere because you're over encumbered, so it drops you all the way back at Vault 76, and then you've got to pay to get from Vault 76 back to where you were, and then it just ends up draining most of your caps. Obviously, one of the biggest things in a Bethesda game, especially in a Fallout game, is your combat system. It's how you're gonna fight. It's how you're gonna do the game, and they've changed it slightly, and it could use some work still, I think. The real-time VATS, the VATS system, so your assisted targeting, it's a good idea because obviously there's multiple players on the server, so you can't exactly slow down the time anymore, but it's very slow to focus onto an enemy. Like, you'll click the button, it will go into the mode, and it'll stay on 0% for a long time. So if you're getting into a bit of a sticky situation and you're trying to fight your way out by getting some assisted aim, you're probably going to die before you load on, before you lock on. But the good thing is, when you're locked on, you do a lot of damage in the VATS system. The other thing about combat is your items, your weapons and your armor. Everything breaks very, very quickly. You'll pick up an awful lot of half-conditioned items and they'll break within an hour of game time. Which then leads the whole way back to being able to repair things and being able to buy new weapons, and it becomes a very, very heavy grind just to get substantial weapons to use for an extended amount of time. Obviously the other big thing is healing, because you're going to take damage, which means you're going to die. Because there aren't a lot of healing items around, you're going to die a lot. And I mean a lot. Which leads back to the cost for fast travel. Everything bad in the game seems to be linked one way or another, and I think tweaking little bits and bobs in each section, Bethesda can make the game an awful lot better. Obviously it's still in early days, so we still have some hope. One of the biggest reasons that people play Fallout is to find out the quests, to find some new story, and to really dive into the world that Bethesda has made. And there was an awful lot of worry about how the quests would work, considering now there's multiple people on a server. After playing the game for a little while, honestly, the quests still feel like old school Fallout quests, like you're going off, you're doing things, there's a whole world to uncover. But the only thing that's drastically different is the event quests, which are like dropping in to an area, fighting off some enemies, or securing a drop. And there's a lot of players there. Like, you could do it on your own, but it tends to be a little tough. You'll tend to see maybe 3 or 4 other players around you, which, if you're playing on original PlayStation 4 or the original Xbox One consoles, it can be a little demanding on your game. So you'll get a bit of frame drops, some packet loss. Like, it's gonna take its toll a little bit, but it's only going to be whilst you're in the event. It does give some good rewards. Event quests give better rewards than regular quests, in my personal opinion. And it's just, I think it's a good way to drag people together to play together, because a lot of the Fallout community is so used to single player that they'll see another person and run the other way. So yeah, the events are a good addition to quests, honestly, because it just makes you feel like you're actually in the multiplayer game that Bethesda promised. And I think that about covers the pros and cons. So all in all, it feels like a Fallout game. It kind of looks like a Fallout game, and from what I've seen and what I've played, it has the story depth of a Fallout game. It just plays more like a survival game, which can be punishing for inexperienced or casual players, but in my honest opinion, it makes succeeding at the game so much more satisfying. So is it worth buying? That's the big question. To me, yes, it is. Because it's a Fallout game, like all Fallout games are worth buying. But if you're not into dying a lot, or if you're not into struggling to search for chems 5 hours of your 7-hour play session, maybe just put it on your Christmas list and get it then instead. Anyway guys, I think that's going to be the end of the video. I'll leave some more of the gameplay of raw footage in the end of this video, just so you can get your honest opinions, see what you like about it, see what you don't. I hope you've enjoyed the video and maybe even learned a thing or two about the game. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and turn on those notifications, because we'll be posting a lot more content. Check the description below for our social medias, and would appreciate it if you could slap a like on that thumbs up button, because it means a lot to us. So thanks guys, I've been Ben with CryptoVoid. I'm signing off for now, and I will see you in the next one.
Good morning. I'm sorry. Welcome back, Initiate.